for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is vocal coach Elizabeth Sabine and artist Ned Evans. Elizabeth was born in London, and her family in 1924 immigrated to Australia, where she was raised in a Victorian atmosphere. What happened in Australia from childhood to the age of 50 when you actually left Australia and came to America, Sabine?
I decided to start a new life. Well, I've got quite good at that. Every time there was a big change, I would usually make a further change. Rather than be a victim, I would stride out and do something else. So it didn't strike me unusual at 51 actually to come to America. I'd always wanted to come to America, this marvelous, magical place. And it was here that I met this wonderful voice guru, Roberto Mazzarella, who gave me the basics of a powerful voice. Because previous to that, I had one of these light, wimpy voices that I did quite well in show business because I was pretty and I knew how to act, and I had special acts written for me. I guess I was fairly clever, so that I had an act, but nobody ever said anything about my voice. So he gave me a big voice, and I was so excited, and I was annoyed to think that those 50 years or so, it was 55 probably by the time I got the voice right, I'd been a wimpy singer, a clever singer, but I'd never had a great voice, and it was all there all the time.
But you weren't even singing in Australia. You were a dental assistant.
Oh, I did. The singing was at night time, and it was part-time because, yes, during the war, I was 14 years of age, and in those days we left school at 14 unless the parents had a lot of money, which Mother hadn't. She was a widow. So I became a dental nurse. I liked that. It was helping people. You know.
And a magician's assistant.
Well, I toured with the Great Levant in Australia, and I sang and used to disappear into ovens and things.
You
know.
did, actually?
That was a lot of fun,
Did
yes.
you learn how to do all those tricks?
No. Some of them we knew about, but some of them were still rather clever. He kept them a secret even from the staff there.
He did?
But we travelled all around Australia with that, yes.
And then at one time you were a sweater model. You didn't have to sing for that, did you?
No, I just loved all facets of show business. Had a nice little bosom, so I used to do the catalogues. You know, it's not glamorous work, but the money comes in. So I'd stick my little chest out and look nice, and there'd be cable stitch or whatnot. So I did some modelling too.
I think the best part, probably the most fun, I would think, would be the cruise ship director and entertainer.
Yeah, I got married when I was 26. I was a virgin till I was married too. I was very devoted to life, and I was studying philosophy and spiritual things. And I had my mother saw to it that I stayed a virgin. She told me things about men and about sex then. So I wonder it didn't make a spinster of me. But this great man came along, and I got married and had 10 years of great married life. I had 3 babies. I lost a little one of 2, and then 2 years later I lost my husband. He had a heart attack, overweight. It's a killer. So at 37 I was a widow, and I could still sing, and I actually, in the upset of losing him, I'd lost some weight. So I went back into show business, did some singing around in television, and then I got this wonderful job for the Sid Marliner's cruise director. And I sowed all the wild oats then that I did not sow previous to my marriage. It was fun because I did it when I was a bit more secure and had a little more judgment, perhaps, so I went wild.
Were you still living in Australia?
Yes.
So you took the cruises from there?
Well, mainly they were just so that, not the cruises to England, but each of the 4 ships would do a cruise of 3 weeks or so. And we went all around the islands, you know, the South Pacific. Oh, they were great days. I think of that.
You talked a little bit about the great voice guru. By that time you had then come to Los Angeles.
Yes, that's where I met him. I never would have believed, back in Australia, if they said, you would be a great voice teacher one day, be able to handle all kinds of voices, I'd have said, me, not a hope, look at me, I can't sing properly, I haven't a clue what it's all about, because I never did university training for voice. But what he told me was so true, it worked so well.
One of the catchwords I saw in your bio was electro-vocal energy?
Electromagnetic. Yes, that's something he talked a lot about. The fact that the voice can be used as a woodwind instrument, la 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 la, making it very pretty. But it can also be used with tight tummy muscles, la it's very commercial, it's very contemporary. The rock singers, that's the sort of voice. The right to rock, they need that. Whereas in opera it would be, well, you wouldn't sing that, but the right to love. You put a little breath to it, make it pretty.
So is that the electro part of
The
it?
electromagnetic is the fact that we don't take big breaths. We take a little breath and we hold the breath. It's a feeling of, and most voice teachers tell you to keep everything loose here. Well, it does make a very pretty, relaxed sound, but you don't have the strength or the longevity that you have from this. I mean, rock singers need this, and that's what I drifted into, teaching rock singers.
Well then, do you teach your people to do crunches?
Oh, yes,
Because they hold that
definitely.
in and they keep
Crunches,
it tight. And
yep.
instead of sit-ups, they're crunches now, aren't they? Because
Yes.
it keeps it tighter in the
All kinds of
abdomen.
exercises to keep the abdominal muscles tight, because that's where the energy comes from. So one thing is, my number one secret is that you must keep this tight. I even give them a book sometimes, and they jam the book in the just here in the solar plexus, and they jam the book in there, and then they have this great power. And it's for speakers, because I work with the speaking voice too, and it's the same sort of thing.
Is it totally against other techniques of teaching?
Not totally, but fairly much so. It is, because once you've been taught to, oh, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? All the great voices of the actors and politicians that you hear and see, they're nearly all assertive people. And when they go to speak, they take a little breath and they firm up the abdominal muscles, and they don't even know they do it. You see, the girls that have great voices, you'll find they've grown up in an uninhibited environment, maybe 6 brothers and sisters. My girlfriend, when I was young, Mary, had this magnificent voice. I'd ask her, I'd look in her throat, I'd feel, I couldn't see anything that different, but she had something, this magic thing called voice I didn't have. She had 6 brothers and sisters. Hey, Tommy, wait! So she sang like that. I'd have gone, oh, wait for me, Mummy. You know, I was, my mother.
You're Victorian background.
No, yes, I'm Elizabeth Mannering, as I was then. Very nice lady. So, la, 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 not la, la. I never used my chest voice either. So it was such a change to have this voice and have it grow. I mean, at 70 years of age now, I can sing far better than I ever could before, and better than a lot of people can in their 20s or 30s. So what I'm doing works, because I'm the proof of it.
Are you singing professionally or just teaching?
No, I could probably, but I don't have the time to put in. There are too many people who need my help. There's all the speaking profession. There's school teachers that are hurting, and salespeople. People who are really hurting because they don't know this data. And I'm trying to write a book. I want to get it out to them. And my rock singers too. And I teach at the Lee Strasberg Theatre Institute, where I teach musical theatre, and that was my early love. So I
teach acting and musical theatre.
Yeah.
What is this tape you have?
Oh, this I made for my rock singers who really hurt, and it's called the Sabine Rock Voice, and it's 75 minutes of exercises to help the young rockers, because they don't have a lot of money for lessons, and the tape is inexpensive.
Do they? Let me hold it so
Yes.
we can see the front of it, because I see you with some of these rockers.
Yeah. It was a picture that that was taken once, and it was so good, because I've got a sort of a look on my face as these kids are all, you see, rock is all facade. It's pantomime. They're pulling faces and being ferocious and representing the evils and the darkness, and they're not. They're angels. Most of them are gorgeous kids.
I think we have a great clip of you teaching someone.
A Japanese
tell us
boy.
about it.
This boy won a competition in Japan to come to Australia and study with the voice guru, the rock guru, Elizabeth Sabine-san. So he was very, and he speaks in Japanese, and I'm speaking to him. There was an interpreter there, but he was picking up a lot of what I was telling him just by concentrating on my face. Japanese are very good at copying, and they really duplicate well.
Now, did he have a voice when he came to you?
He did.
Oh, he did have a voice.
But he pushed a bit of air. He'd wobble and he'd shove air so the chords would sort of fall apart.
So let's see what you do with him.
All right.
I think that Sabine.
No. 雨上がりの虹が浮かぶそう。
Niji, they're probably the J. Niji, make sure you've got plenty of J. Niji, cry it up. Da, 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 da. All right.
Ah, 雨上がりの虹が浮かぶ空を越えてもう一度あの場所へ The beginning of love.
Now, you've got 2 ways to do it. You can be angry or you can be sad. Sad is safer. Away, away! Have
a little sadness is better, I think, than an anger, see? Try more. The beginning of love! Like a little girl. Ah! I don't want you, Daddy! Ah! Real cry. Make it sadder. Sad. Da, 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 da. Sound it out like that.
The beginning of love!
Feel the difference? You had space.
Yeah.
This person having a voice, what happens if someone comes to you and has no voice? How would you start with an inexperienced singer?
I'd first of all get them to make little sounds, little crying sounds. Pretend that they're an Italian popper. Vino, 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 you're a bad boy. And they laugh and they have fun. Most people can do that. And then I say, now Vino's moved away. Vino, 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 you're a bad boy. And they find themselves, if they're projecting further, they have to tighten the tummy muscles. They start to get a handle on the voice, you see. We don't worry about tunes. We get sounds coming out. We might recite things. We might recite the words of Yesterday, the Beatles song. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. You've got to have the passion. The passion is what gives you the range. It gives you the tightness here. Without the passion, it's all very dull and interesting.
What happens then if you have someone who's experienced? You have to undo things with them?
It depends how much they want changed. If they're very good and they just want longevity, I just show them how to always take the little breath and keep the abdominal muscles tight and still do what they were doing before.
You had some very famous people that you were working with, I know. Tell us a little bit of what you had to do with each one of these. Axl Rose, for example.
Well, Axl came to me, he came to me for his head voice, but unfortunately he didn't retain the knowledge and he didn't practice it because he has a very screechy voice. He may sometime listen to the tape and get back to it, but it's too late now. Axl, as his style is set with that scratchy sound. He has a beautiful baritone, a very rich baritone voice, so I want him to come back sometime so I can do that. Chuck Norris is an interesting student. He didn't come to me for singing. Chuck had been working and yelling and finding that his voice was hitting. So despite the fact that he has wonderful abdominal muscles, he wasn't using them. I'll never forget the thrill when I had my fist in Chuck Norris's belly saying, come on, go away, come on further, Chuck, come on tighter. And I felt I had to punch him in the belly to make sure it was tight. It helped. He doesn't seem to be having any vocal problems now.
And say someone like Priscilla Presley.
Same thing. She was on the set of Dallas and the director said, Priscilla, I can't hear you. So she wanted, not so much singing, she wanted a voice strengthener. I'm a voice strengthening specialist. So she came along and we got her to do some similar things too.
We have to leave now, but when I was thinking about this kind of long life and this long longevity that has to go with conductors and singers, what is the secret of that?
I think basically I love people, I love life. I think life is great and that one should be able to live it and not get lost in it. But the main thing is to not get caught up. When bad things happen, go to a counsellor, get it looked at, take responsibility for it, and then drop it and go on afresh. I'm not hung up in the deaths and losses and rejections. I was dumped a few times by men and broke my heart. All forgotten. Not forgotten. I can use it for singing, but it's not there so that you go on. It's a fresh unit of time and knowing that you're part of a divine plan and it works.
Oh, it looks
70, I feel pretty good.
It looks like it's working, and I hope we can learn from that. So we're going to thank Elizabeth Sabine, as she likes to be called. Go do some of those funny sounds with your voice and tighten your...
I'm in Studio City if anybody needs my help.
Yeah, great. And don't go away. We'll be back with artist Ned Evans, whose work has been on the set while Elizabeth was here. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with artist Ned Evans. Ned is the quintessential Southern Californian. He was born in Burbank, raised in the Valley, and graduated with a bachelor's and a master's from the University of California at Irvine. Ned then became the consummate surfer. He lived in Laguna, where he caught the waves and met a few artists before he moved to Venice in 1972. Did your love for the surf and for art come at the same time, Ned?
No, one preceded the other. Art preceded probably by about 4 or 5 years.
You mean you were surfing as a kid?
Yeah, age 10.
Were you?
Yeah.
So you leave the Valley and go where?
My dad would wake up in the morning and drive about 2 hours to pick everybody up, and then we'd drive to Ventura. Then he would drive back to the Valley, stay all day, come back up and pick us up.
Anyway, he'd leave you there to surf.
Yeah, anyway, but that's what we did as kids.
So when you were living in Laguna...
that was the reason to go to to get out of the valley. The goal, if you went to school in the valley, the goal was to get out and go somewhere. And for me, it was anywhere close to the beach. So it was Santa Barbara or Irvine. And at that time, Irvine was a brand new school. And but it was the size of my high school, 3,000 students.
Oh, it was a little tiny school.
And that's where I met virtually most of my friends today, people like Ed Moses, Tony DeLapp, Craig Kaufman, all those guys.
What were they doing there?
Teaching.
Oh, they all taught. They were your teachers.
Bob Irwin, all of them. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize
In a
that.
barn.
Then why did you stay in Laguna?
Well, because it was right next door to the school.
But you
And why
lived
not
there
live by the beach?
But
Right.
you lived there a long time before you moved to Venice.
Well, there was a whole series of factors. Number one, the Vietnam War was the most important reason to stay in school, and plus I wanted to go to a sort of a fresh school, and that's what Irvine between '68 and '72, I guess, has been sort of called the golden age of Irvine, because Irwin and Alan Solomon was there, John Copeland's, Barbara Rose,
all
Phil
kinds
Leader.
of art.
And I mean, you'd have guest lectures by from John Cage to you name it, everybody.
Here you were in the city of Laguna, where they have the Laguna Arts Festival, and then you have this totally avant-garde group of professors or teachers at the school. How did that interact, and what was the arts festival about?
It was about something different than what we were doing. I don't know. I mean, it was such an old, established, I mean, it actually was sort of fun to visit and walk through, but I mean, Craig lived down there, and Tony DeLapp, they all lived within proximity of the beach, and we sort of functioned as a satellite separate from that in a way.
But that was just once a year, was it, the Laguna Art Festival, and they would depict...
Well, the pageant of the masters.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic, and they would spend hours, and actually it's pretty fascinating. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, I thought it was divine. Everyone should see it once.
Yeah, you just want to hold your breath and see somebody flinch their eyes or something.
Tell our viewers exactly what they do.
Well, they recreate great master paintings, all with the whole tableau and figures and everything. It's sort of fascinating.
And they're just like freeze framed,
and it's
frozen.
at night. It's at night, so all the lighting's controlled, everything's controlled, and they'll, everything from Rubens to, I mean, whatever. I mean, classical, mainly classical masterpieces.
Well, you could have actually been influenced by some of those great masters, were you?
At that time, because the school was so focused on contemporary, it was, I mean, you just didn't get, I mean, that information came in, but it was so overpowered by everything that you were getting from the other side, especially from people like Phil Leader and John Copeland, who at the time, I mean, John Copeland had just finished being the editor of Art Forum, and I mean, it was sort of an amazing.
Did they have dance also? And
oh yeah, they had a big drama department, big dance, but at the same time, there were no facilities. I mean, I think the drama department had the humanities hall. We had a barn out on what used to be the old part of the farm. And we would sit out in this barn, and you'd walk through, and there'd be rabbits and all that, and there were no studios. So everyone was not taught, but exposed to artists who were just artists, as opposed to just teachers. And we all had nowhere to work, so we went out and formed cooperatives. We started cooperative art spaces, like New Space was a group of artists, and an alternative space. No one, I mean, there was nowhere to work, so you had to just sort of do it.
Are people from your age range working in the arts now?
Oh,
who you went to school with?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Chris Burden and Alexis Smith, John Akulik, Bruce Richards, Jerry Bird, Charles Hill.
They all went to school there?
All at the same time, and there's Robert Walker, a few other people. Yeah.
You know, I've known you for many years, and I've seen your work progress in a lot of different materials. You used like found paper. I called it found paper. I don't know, for want of a better word, collages.
Well,
tell us how you started on. You used acrylics.
Yeah. Well, the found paper ones were. I went to all these. What am I trying to say? The poster factories.
Right.
People who printed the big billboards, and you get. They're an amalgam of maybe 40 images to create one singular image, and they would have their overruns and their cancel sheets, and I would sort of ask them if I could raid their trash, and then I would bring them back to the studio, and they were already altered to a state where you they were unrecognizable because they'd be like a 2-color run out of a 6-color run.
Oh,
so
I see.
I would sort of use that and then take that as a jumping point, just as a reference point to move that abstraction, which has already started because they were canceled and mistakes or things.
But you already you used actually that material in your work.
Yeah, for a while, for a couple years.
And then you used postcards, I know, mixed.
I've always done little tiny collages out of postcards, sort of as little notations on, not so much where I am, but what I feel about where I am at that time from different images.
But you alter them as well, right?
Yeah,
Are they
usually
altered?
they're manipulated one way or another.
But are these things termed as archival? Because people always think about art, they want something archival.
Like any paper, it's less archival than, say, the paintings that are here. Yeah, I mean, you've got to, any printed image, you've got to keep it out of the light. I mean, even
And
watercolors, everything. Yeah.
You use tissue paper. You used
in those early paintings, you had to sort of build up the surface. Yeah, because the first paintings were very sort of surface oriented, but the surface itself was actually very smooth. But then I became more involved in, like, these paintings are a series of sort of evolution of different materials.
And then where did you move? You moved from all those different kinds of collages into painting on wood or painting on canvas.
Right, right. Well, I started at that, but at that time in school, there was a big emphasis of going off the stretcher and into materials, and it was right after a lot of people were experimenting with light and space and acrylics, and I mean, not acrylics, but
plastic, I was thinking,
resins
weren't you?
and everything.
Resins, yeah.
And we were all influenced by, everybody was sort of spreading out and using different materials. So I actually created sort of my own surfaces out of tissue paper and gauze and Roplex and made skins that were later mounted and things.
I see, that's how that happened then. And then, where are you now?
Well, I think
career-wise.
Well, no, but as a student and everything, I mean, you're exposed, and then you start to reach around and grab and test everything. And I've settled down, and I've been using basically the same sort of process, if you want to call it that, or set of materials for the last 8 or 9 years.
And what set of materials is that?
Well, like in these, it's all either on wood or canvas, and I sort of start off with it's like a dry fresco, a secco.
So this is
plaster ground.
This is wood, and this piece on the other side of you is canvas.
Which makes no difference really, other than one's a little less apt to damage. But the surface quality is the same.
So you build up the canvas the same way you would build up the wood?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit. You said you were still working with water. I mean, does that have a part of your surf
I don't know.
Water?
I think it has much sort of letting the elements come in a little bit, because I work outside a lot. And the first paintings I did outside were in '73. I had a garage down there, and you don't have enough room, so you move out on the driveway. It's not so much like I want to be outside. It's just, where do I do this 9 by 10 foot canvas, which at that time I was doing very large canvases. But then you realize there's a certain freedom, and certain things you let go of. You don't worry about the light. You don't worry about making such a big mess, and I feel more comfortable out there. So I still do it. I mean, these paintings included.
These paintings included. Do you think a gallery is really important to an artist's career?
It's crucial, but
Do you
difficult.
think so?
Yeah, it's crucial. It's like it's a marriage. It's a definitely crucial.
Can you form your own career without a gallery or without a dealer?
I know some people who can. I'm not able to.
Is it like, how do you do, how?
I think it comes in, I think it's genetic.
What happens actually? You say you can't do it and it's crucial, but what happens if you don't have a gallery or you don't have a dealer?
You sort of, you struggle, for the lack of a better word.
How do you get it out there?
You work as hard as you can to do what you can and what you feel good about, as far as promotion and all those necessary elements, but it gets difficult. For me, it gets more difficult as I grow older. When you're younger, you're a little less reflective about what you want and you're more apt to put it out there and push and all that. And in these times, it's really difficult.
What about staying dedicated to your work if you don't have someone? I mean, you have to paint. You're a painter. You're an artist. You have to work, and it's crucial, you say, to have a gallery person doing something for you. If you don't have the gallery, because so many galleries are closing one after the other, they open, they close so quickly. How do you stay dedicated to what you're doing?
Well, they're like two parallel avenues. One, they cross, but not really. I mean, your dedication has to come from inside, hopefully, and that has to stay on its own. And it's hard. I mean, if you have a show, obviously you're going to be more excited about working, but you'll still work no matter what. But it's difficult, and I know people who are fantastic at it. I'm just not real good at it.
If you weren't an artist, would you have been anything else?
Probably an architect.
Really?
Yeah.
I know.
Had I been able to decipher mathematics in any form, because I'm completely number dumb. But as a child, I started out, my first paintings were always of houses, and I've designed houses and built things for people and things.
But you also love the surroundings of the houses, the garden parts of it.
Yeah. Well, I help my wife with that. I mean, it's sort of our symbiotic relationship. I mean, we sort of, I call myself the spiritual and structural engineer for my wife. I sort of help her, tell her how she can build the things that she dreams about to create in a landscape, like the hardscape, usually the patios. And
So do you
pergolas.
draw? Do you draw that out for
Oh, yeah.
her?
Yeah, we'll
Do
sit
you
there
make a
and-
scheme and?
Oh yeah, it's exactly like any architectural plan. We have to work, you've got so many elements that have to be married, you have to work from a master plan. Yeah. So I mean, it's basically what she's been doing, is painting through her garden design. You know, and there's a whole relation to her work anyway, but it's
She's a
pretty
painter.
fascinating. Right. Come.
Tell her.
Painter, come, garden designer.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're trying to marry ways to, you know, stay alive and keep it going.
Well, I know that you can do gardening, you can paint, you can sculpt, you can do anything, and we want to thank Ned Evans for being with us today. It was very interesting, and we liked having Elizabeth Sabine on with us too, and we liked having you watch us. So watch us next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles. Bye.